friends of mine in a little impecunious organization called the Christian Action Network did a film which features this training video, among other things, but it also featured interviews with people in the communities surrounding these Jamaat al-Fukra camps who explained how they were hearing automatic weapon fire and explosives and other ominous things happening on the other side of the wire, guarded by people with semi-automatic weapons. And when they appealed to the FBI for help and local police authorities for help, they were told basically sorry. And why I mention this because many of the people in these compounds seem to be coming out of the penal system, getting a kind of halfway house training, maybe with the Medinan indoctrination, maybe just in better weapons than they were using before they went into the pen. But whatever it is, it ain't good. That's for sure. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a ringer here.
One more after that.
One more after this, and you're good.
Okay, let me suggest a somewhat different narrative. We can sit around forever and recount the episodes, I know them as well as you do, of a jihadist attacking the El Al ticket counter in Los Angeles and things like that. Okay. There are literally dozens of these things. Most of them have a Keystone Cop character to them. Okay. They're individuals poorly thought out. In many cases, they're caught before they even do anything. This is a far cry, say, from the Cold War, when you had Soviet agents doing far greater things. Okay. And I would suggest that these kinds of things rile your blood, and they can be serious damage. People do die. But in the grand scheme of things, they are relatively minor. 37,000 people every year die of automobile accidents. Now, I would suggest that the real problem is not these individuals with their Keystone Cop operations bringing their photographs to be developed into Best Buy. Remember the Fort Dix thing, remember that? Yeah, okay. But it's the atmosphere which you have already alluded to, of moral relativism, inclusiveness at all costs, the idea that the worst sin in America right now is to hate. Okay, and if you criticize Islam, you are a hater, you are an Islamophobe. Andy McCarthy talks about this a great deal. And it seems to me that that really is a far more important problem than a couple of crackpot people in Oregon playing soldier out in, talking about. And that subsumes the ACLU, it subsumes the school district in California, which is all that sort of stuff. That is, the real problem is we will not stand up for our own values, and we almost make a fetish out of embracing those who would attack us as something that is, aren't we great? We allow people to come into this country and form groups, whether it's from La Raza or the Black Panthers or Islam. Okay? They almost relish in masochistic glee this kind of mentality. And that transcends the particular details here of a bunch of crackpot jihadists. So are we really focusing on something which is epiphenomenal, which is these few people who are doing these things, or is the disease far more basic?
That's a very thoughtful question. I would say that I think but for a question of probably a few minutes, we may have lost the better part of 50,000 people down the street, not the 3,000 we lost. Just the buildings weren't populated by the folks who ultimately would have been there.
Yeah.
We may have lost that many the first time they tried to do this in 1993, and I'm told they were inches away from the structural supports of that tower, which would have toppled. Is that Keystone Cop, or is that just, not so good? Let me just answer your question this way. I agree with basically the thrust of your question to me, and I think that's what I've tried to say here. I'm worried about the civilization jihad as much as I'm worried about the violent jihad. We have been focusing almost entirely on the latter and not on the former. My fear is that The reason that we have, and I'm always asked this question, I don't know that this is true, but this is my working theory. The reason we've been only subjected to Keystone Cop kind of lone wolf or unprofessional or certainly not terribly competent attacks is because it's not time. It's not time. The correlation of forces has not been achieved. Let me give you one question, one anecdote. How far away from Times Square here?
10 miles.
You got the admission keys in the car.
No,
Yeah.
he had an M80 instead of an M88 as the device that was going to trigger the bomb. Or maybe it was an 88 instead of an 88. I don't know. But it was a tiny technical problem that would have resulted in the death of thousands. We've been lucky. We've been blessed. We've had good law enforcement work in a lot of cases. We've had good intelligence work, but we've been blessed in a lot of cases. But my point is yours, sir. The real threat we're facing is the hollowing out of our institutions, the keeping us witless, the forcing of us to submit relentlessly, not least, folks, in terms of freedom of speech, that is going to get more of us killed in due course. That I'm absolutely sure. And we have one last question, and you're it.
Yeah, I hear you speak a lot. You haven't, well, first of all, what she was talking about, what really bothers me from a legal standpoint, they go out with a Christmas tree and whatnot. We actually spent taxpayers' money to build footpaths in Minnesota. That wasn't a lawsuit that we won. I don't know what is. And don't we have any groups on our side that would use their tactics, which I don't really agree with, but to counter that, that's the first part. The second part is, I haven't heard you speak about President Obama's got a Muslim Brotherhood guy very high in the administration right now to talk about. And last time I heard you spoke, that wasn't the case. So I want your insight on him and what his story is.
Okay. Lawfare. Lawfare is a weapon in this war. It is generally used by the Islamists against us. Among other things, the ACLU is helping them learn how to do it. In some cases, they're actually defending it, or more to the point, helping them prosecute their cases. We do have several organizations, including the Lawfare Project here, run by my friend Brooke Goldstein, an organization called the American Freedom Law Center, run by my general counsel, David Yeroshami, and his colleague Robert Muse, the ACLJ, run by Jay Sekulow and a few others, who are, Thomas More Law Center, who are taking on cases, usually winning them in defense of our freedoms. One that happened right here, which you may have heard of, was the case to bring Pamela Geller's ads into the tube. Right? That was a First Amendment fight, and our guys beat them soundly. But you can see how hard it was. The MTA didn't want to do it. Is that what they call it, the MTA?
Yeah.
They didn't want to do it. They fought it tooth and tong. They tried to wriggle out of it. And finally, a federal judge said, no, you have to. And it's been done in a number of other cities around the country. So it is being done, and we need to do a lot more of it, frankly. And help to those organizations is also, I think, warranted. Your second question.